Hey everybody, this is Tanya Barbie. I am still a rose. Petals of wisdom tonight. We're talking about domestic violence. We don't have to talk about domestic violence just in October. It happens 12 months of a year. And we have a special guest coming on tonight, and her name is Melissa Holmes. I've invited her, and I'm hoping that she comes online to talk to us about ways that we can help others and not be so judging and try to understand and to try to be more supportive and to try to help people who are hurting all over this country in regards to domestic violence. What can we do? So I'm in the process of bringing on Melissa. Come on, Melissa. I'm getting her. She's coming. Melissa, you there?
Okay, I'm closing the door again.
You there?
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here. I'm
all
here.
righty. Good. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um,
Absolutely.
I've been following you and I've been doing a lot of crying, watching you, um, your struggle, what you went through. And I heard you tonight. You were on there tonight with Katie Graves, and you all had a great discussion tonight about domestic violence and how it affects us. It affects everybody, the family, the children, the extended family members. I'm going to reintroduce you. Melissa Holmes is a DV survivor. For those of you who don't know, DV stands for domestic violence. She's an advocate. She's a certified domestic violence coach. She's also a motivational speaker and she's an author. And she's doing a lot in New York and getting ready to go to Denver as well to speak about domestic violence. So she's here tonight to help us better understand, to help us be in a better position to help others, because I learned a lot tonight. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I learned a lot tonight that I did not know about domestic violence. And one thing they need more than anything is for us to listen to them. So Melissa's here. Melissa, I wanted to first ask you a few questions.
Absolutely.
Before we get to the questions that I had proposed tonight, I'd like to ask you, could you tell the listeners about your story?
Absolutely. I am a two-time domestic violence survivor in two consecutive relationships, with my husband being my first abuser. And this was a man that I had married
Mm,
after 5.5 years of dating. So this was somebody I actually thought that I had knew.
right.
Unfortunately, the minute it became legal and my last name changed to Holmes, this man had become someone that I had no longer knew for the last 5.5 years that we had dated. And so there was a lot of things that had changed in his behavior. And these were things, these some of the things that he had displayed were things that I had never seen when we were dating.
Wow.
And so um, like he had become more obsessive and he would do things, and I didn't know it then, but now I knew that he was grooming me.
Mm,
And so, where though he would do things like, because we worked two different shifts, so I worked like from 9 to 5, and let's say he worked from like 4 to 12 midnight.
mhm.
So we would miss each other a lot of the time. The times I was home with the kids. And so, when I would get off from work, he would say things like, call me when you leaving work. Call me when you got to the bus stop. And, let me know when you get off the bus, uh, at our bus stop where we lived. And at that time, I didn't think about it. I just thought that he was concerned. He just wanted to make sure that I was okay because we worked two different shifts, so he would not be there when I got home and picked up the kids. Oh, he just wanted to make sure that I arrived home safely or whatever. So I didn't think about it then. But as time went on, I want to say maybe a couple of months or so, it started to um, annoy me. And I was like, well, why I do the same thing every single day? And it started to, like really annoy me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I have to do this so often? When I decided that I was not going to do it, and, I was just like, that's when the problem came. And because he felt like, okay, I had already started with one pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want to now, change direction and do something else. And so, like I said, I didn't know it then, but it was a grooming period. He just wanted to know my whereabouts and he wanted to make sure he kept tabs on me and wanted to make sure I was where I say I was going to be and all of this foolishness. And so, you know, of course, like any other woman, we all want to get married
Mm-hmm.
and have, this perfect, lifestyle or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so, uh, we had already had a son. My son, when we got married, he was 2 years old. We got married in 1998. And, once we got married, a short term after that, things started to go south. I think where we were supposed to still be in that honeymoon stage, we had now um, become almost like roommates. Like we were walking around the house, like barely speaking to each other. And he gotten to the point that I was now sleeping in the bedroom. He was sleeping out on the couch. So there were a lot of things that had changed after just 2 years of being married. Like that honeymoon period had now phased out. And I remember him saying, something happened. And oh, I remember I came home from work and I didn't realize I wanted to cook spaghetti, and I had taken the meat out before I left for work that morning. I didn't realize that I didn't have spaghetti sauce.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got home, I walked all the way upstairs to the fifth floor, realized I didn't have the spaghetti sauce, so I had to go back down to get the spaghetti sauce. And the mix of me getting the spaghetti sauce, I had run into a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And her and I, you know how you get with women and you hadn't seen each other in a long time. So we
Mm-hmm.
were just standing outside in front of the bodega, just chopping it up. And oh my God, it was so good to see you, what you've been up to, reminiscing how many kids she had, how many kids how old were, just basic stuff. Before I knew it, time had gotten away from me. So when I originally told him I would be back in 10 minutes, he literally took that like, okay, you should have been back in 10 minutes. Before I knew it, this girl and I had been standing outside of the bodega for like maybe 30 to 45 minutes. When I realized the time, I said, oh my God, I got to go, Nisi. I got to go. I'm supposed to be making spaghetti. And so I leave and I go home. And as soon as I turn the corner, I could see him looking out the window and he's looking up the street and he's looking down the street. And when he sees me, he gets back out the window. And when I get upstairs, it was just this whole big explosion. Oh my God, where was you? You said you was going to be gone for 10 minutes. And he just went crazy. And I'm like, really? So I said to him, I ran into a friend of mine. I hadn't seen her in years. We were just out there in front of the bodega talking. And he blew that all out of proportion. And from that moment, I remember saying to him, I don't know what's going on, but you are starting to act in a way that I had never seen before. I need you to go to your mom's and allow me some time to try to figure out what is going on because these things were new to me. And the minute he said to me, I'm not going anywhere because this is just as much my apartment as it is yours. The minute he chose not to give me that space I had asked him for, things went south immediately. Um, like I said, we had started, uh, we were in a house and we had become roommates, and it got to the point Now the disrespect had started to come in, because at that particular moment,
Mhm.
when he didn't allow me that time that I needed to figure some things out, I had lost respect for him. And so uh, I would start going out more on the weekend, because we started arguing more, and then I didn't just want to be around the house. And my way of getting some outlet was, I'm leaving the house. So on Saturdays or Friday nights, when he was home and he didn't have to work, I would leave him with the kids. I had a daughter that wasn't his, but my son, and I would leave him with the kids, and I would go out to the after hour spot. I would stay there till about maybe 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would come home, because that place, like, I just did not care anymore, because he didn't allow me that time to embrace whatever it was that was going on with him.
Mhm.
Allow me some room to figure out or adjust to some of the things that you are now doing. And he wasn't okay with that. I don't know if he thought that if he left, I would not invite him back.
Right.
And he felt like if he left, he was just gonna not come back. I don't know what it was, but it just, things had just, one thing had started happening after the other. And then, like I said, it started with the disrespect. Then it came, well, started with the net, then the name calling, and then it got physical. And then once it got physical, I chose to leave.
Mhm.
And when I chose to leave, um, I didn't have any place to go. This
Mhm.
was to take both of my kids with me.
Right.
But when I went back to get my kids, he had taken my son to work with him to keep me from getting my son. So I made the conscious decision that I was going to leave anyway with my daughter. I was going to go back the next day and I was going to get my son. But he had other plans. He left work the next day. He went down to the courts with my son and told them that I abandoned my son. And so they ended up giving him temporary custody of my son.
Wow.
And so then he started, it was like blow after blow. Then he would have his friends to come serve me at my job with an order of protection to stay away from him and my son. Then the following week, he had his friend to come serve me with child support papers. He wanted child support because he now had custody of my son. Then the week after that, he had his friend come serve me with papers where he had ordered me to go take a drug test.
Wow.
And so it was just one thing after the other and just one thing after the other. And so I just felt like I couldn't get a break. And so I remember we went to court, court date had come, and we went in before the judge. And the judge said to me, well, if you can come back and you can show me that you have a stable place to stay, I'll give you your son back.
Mhm.
So by that time, by the time we went back to court, I had found a place. But before I had found the place, my daughter and I were sleeping in the doctor's office that I worked. And so we slept in the doctor's office for about 6 months until I was able to find an apartment. So I had the keys to the office. So when the doctors would leave at night, my daughter and I would go in and we would sleep out in the waiting area where the patients would be. I would get her up in the morning, get her off to school, and I would get up and go around the corner to the diner, sit at the diner to 9 o'clock like I was just coming into work. And I did that every day for like 6 months. When I got paid, we would go sometimes and we would sleep at the hotel till the money ran out, and then I would go back and I would sleep at the office. Well, this day we go to court, and the judge says to him, "Well, if you can come back and show me that you have a stable place to stay, I will give you your son back." By this time, like I said, I had found a place, but then he had started stalking me.
Mhm.
So we went to court. We had a court date to go back, and when we went back, I opted out of giving the court my information
Mhm.
because he had started stalking me. With me going in and opting out and giving them my information, they let him keep my son.
Wow.
And so I remembered, um, when the judge banged the gavel and said Donald Holmes will remain with custody of Darius Holmes until further notice. I remember I fell out on the courtroom floor at this
Mhm.
man's feet, him, not to take my son. And he looked down at me like I was nothing on the bottom of his shoe, yanked his leg away from me, and walked out the courtroom. And I remember I cried and I cried and I cried. And a court officer came and he had to escort me outside into the waiting area. I sat in the courthouse for about an hour and a half, just crying and throwing up in the garbage can, just making myself sick.
Wow.
When I finally pulled myself together, because my daughter just keeps saying, "So when is my brother coming? I want to see my brother." And I was so sure that had I gotten a chance to explain the situation to the judge, I thought I was going to really get my son back.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work that way. So I remember when I got myself together, I went in the bathroom and I put some water on my face. And when I looked up at myself in the mirror, the only thing I can think of is the only way you're going to get your son back is if you have this man killed. I left the courthouse with the intentions of having my husband killed that day. Long story short, we were thinking alike and we both had hits out on each other.
Wow.
And unfortunately, he called me. I went as far as to meet with the hitman to find out how much he would charge, how he was going to do this. He said to me, "You bring me a picture, you give me half now. I promise you, I will have him come up missing, and his family would never find his body." And at that moment, that sounded like music to my ears because I knew that was my ticket out. I knew that that would be the only way that I could get my son back, that he was not going to make this easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted my son. I was desperate. This man had took my son. I wanted my son. The hardest thing to do was to be strong for my daughter
Right.
who wants her brother, but my heart is breaking because this man took my son.
Right.
And so I was willing to do whatever. And I met with this man and he told me what he would do, how he would do it, and everything. And I left that meeting and I went to my mom's to visit. And when I walked into the house, my son was there. And the minute I saw my son, I realized I couldn't do it
Mm-hmm.
because the only thing that came to mind was I lost my son temporarily now. But if my son was to ever find out that I was the reason that
Right.
his father got killed, I would lose my son forever.
Right.
And that wasn't a chance that wasn't something that I was willing to risk. So I called the hitman back and I told him I couldn't do it. Well, the following week, all if I knew that all I needed to do was just wait a little while because that fight was already fixed. About 2 weeks after that, um, he called me at work, May 7th, 2003.
Mm-hmm.
He had told me plenty of times before that he was going to have me killed, but he wouldn't do it because he didn't want to get his hands dirty, that he would always send somebody to do it. And so I remember telling him, the only thing I ask is that you don't have me killed in front of my kids.
Wow.
Have somebody to catch me when I'm coming out from work because I never want to have a chance to see it coming because I never want to have a chance to defend myself. I just wanted it to be done and over with. He called me at 2 o'clock, May 7th, 2003, at work and said to me, "Today is your day.
Wow.
I promise you, you will not make it back to work tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." I hung up the phone and I remember calling the receptionist to my office. And I remember writing down his name, his address, his social security number, and the telephone number to the apartment that we once shared.
Mm-hmm.
And I called the receptionist to my office and I said to her, I put it in an envelope and I put it in my desk. And I said to her, "If I don't make it back to work tomorrow, you ought to take this envelope and you ought to give it to the police because that means my husband had me killed."
Wow.
5 o'clock came and I got to the door. It was time to leave to go and head uptown to get my daughter from the after school.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could do was get to the front door and drop my head in silence. And I had to make peace with what was going to happen when I walked when I got outside
Mm-hmm.
and I got to the front door and said a little prayer and made peace. And I remember I walked out the front door and I was determined that I was going to keep walking straight. I wasn't going to look behind me. And because whoever he had sent was going to catch me from behind and I didn't want to see it coming. And I made it all the way to the train station and nothing had happened. And I remembered I was like shocked.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm looking in my bag for my Metro card, my phone rang. And it was my son calling me to say that his father was having an asthma attack. And I said to him, hang up the telephone and call 911. And I proceeded on up the train stairs and got the train was coming and I'm on the platform and my phone rings again. The next time the phone rings, it's my mother. Now, I hadn't seen my mother in about a year since I had left
Mm-hmm.
because he had taken the word of this man over mine.
Right.
And so I didn't want him to know where I was. So I figured if she knew where my daughter and I was, that she would tell him. So I opted out of saying anything to her. So I just lost all contact with her and my oldest sister. And when I heard her voice and she says to me, where are you? And I said to her, I'm on my way uptown to get Yasmin from school. And she says, I need you to come to the hospital. And I remember saying, for what? And she says, I just need you to come to the hospital. I said, well, if you can't tell me why you need me to come to the hospital, I'm not coming. And I hung up the phone. And I got on the train and I got to the stop to
Mm-hmm.
go to my daughter's school, and my phone rings again, and it's my mom, and she says, "Well, are you on your way?" I said, no. Why do you need me to meet you at the hospital? But she would never say, and I was getting aggravated. Like, stop calling me. Y'all haven't called me to see how Yasmin. Like, stop calling me.
Right.
And I went. I picked Yasmin up from school, and we got in a cab, and I went to my new apartment, and I changed from my scrubs and, put some jeans and stuff on. And then I took my daughter out to eat at BBQ's. And so while we're sitting at dinner, my phone keeps ringing and it's my mom. And she just keeps saying, I need you to come to the hospital. I was like, I'm not coming to the hospital. Click. And I hung up on her.
Mm-hmm.
She waited a few minutes and she'll call back. And she kept calling back to back like 5 or 6 times. So now I'm getting aggravated because now I can't finish my dinner with my daughter and what
Mm-hmm.
have you. And so I remember picking up the telephone like after the seventh or eighth phone call. And I picked up the phone and I'm like, I'm on my way. Click. And I hang up the phone. I get to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and my daughter and I walk into the emergency room, and that was the first time I had seen my mother and my oldest sister in a year since I had left. And I walked in and I got ready to sit down. And before I can get a chance to sit down, this woman comes from the back, this white woman comes from the back, and she says, where's the Holmes party? And so I raised my hand
Mm-hmm.
and she said, well, who are they? I said, well, this is my daughter, this is my mother, and this is my sister. She said, well, I need you all to come with me to the back. And I said to her, you taking me back here to tell me my husband died? And she wouldn't say anything. I said, I already know what it is. Can I use your house phone so I can call my job and let them know I'm not coming in to work this week? And so I had already knew what it was when I walked in there. So I went, I called my job, and then I called his mother, my mother-in-law, to say that her son had expired. And then they put us in a room, and the doctor comes in, and he comes and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I said, "I already know what you came in here to tell me. Can I see him?" And so they were like, well, when we get his body together and move him into another room, we'll come get you two at a time and let you come. So my daughter and my sister went in first, and then me and my mother went in. And I just wanted to know that this was for real.
Mm-hmm.
And so he called me at 2, and by 6, he had died of an asthma attack in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital that same day.
Wow.
And so I go to clean up the apartment, and um, the hitman's information is laying by his asthma machine.
Good grief.
And so I'm cleaning up and I look at this piece of paper with all this information and stuff on it. And a part of me wanted to call the number. And I was like, okay, well, I'll call the number. What am I going to say? I'm the lady you're supposed to come kill. And so I decided that I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to wait it out and see. And so after about 2 months, when nothing had happened,
Mm-hmm.
I had come to the conclusion that he had had an asthma attack before he got a chance to make that phone call
Wow.
to put that hit in place.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Wow. You had the covering of Jesus on you. And talk about karma. Wow. I'm
yeah,
so sorry this happened to you. So, Melissa, how so you got your son back, obviously.
I got my son back. When he died,
Okay.
we had another court date. We were supposed to go back like 2 days after he had died,
Wow.
and so after I had made all the arrangements and I was able to get a death certificate
Mm,
expedited, so when we went back to court, um, I know people may think that what I'm going to say is a little harsh, and it's okay. But I
mhm.
tell people those were my feelings, and nobody lived what I lived. And so we went when I went back to court,
Right.
um, and the court officer came and he called our name. Our docket was up,
Hmm.
and I said, I'm here. And he said, so where's the other party? And I, with a grin, I said, well, he won't be here today because he died 2 days ago.
Right.
And so the court officer escorted me inside, and I went inside grinning
Hmm.
and with a smile on my face. We had the same judges we had before, and the judge says, well, where's the other? He's not gonna be here because he died. Here's the death certificate.
Hmm.
And the judge looked, he was like, yeah, he did. And so he dismissed it. He was like, up. He banged the gavel. He was like, all orders are dismissed. And I walked up out of there
You had $1 million.
like I had $1 million. I promise you, I felt like I wanted to go to the strip club and start giving out lap dances.
Wow.
That's how happy I was. I felt like a ton of bricks had been lifted off my chest. I wanted to go to Sin City.
Wow. Now, I'm glad it turned out in your favor that you are still amongst us and nothing happened to you. Um, did you lose love for him during that time? Because I've always heard that our people that have gone through that, a lot of them are still attached. So they still have love for these people that hurt them. How did you not have love for him anymore, even though he took you through all of that?
The things that he had done to me,
Mm-hmm.
and when he took my son away from me,
Right.
that was it for me.
Yeah.
I was done. I knew that there was no coming back. There was not an apology big enough. There was nothing that he could buy me. There was
Mm-hmm.
nothing, no amount of money. There was nothing that he can do. And at that minute, when he had my son taken away from me, I was done with him. I just couldn't figure out because I was so broken at the minute. I couldn't put the pieces together because all I can think about is I want my son and I had to do whatever, but I still had to be strong for my daughter. But I knew it was no coming back
Right.
from that. I hated him.
Right.
I hated him. And when I walked in because I remember telling my mother, why you keep calling me?
Mm.
Call his mother.
Right.
Why y'all calling me? At that time I had grown such
Mm.
a hate for this man.
Right.
We had at that point we had nothing, absolutely nothing in common but my son DJ.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was the only common denominator. I had hated him. Now I can honestly say everything we had gone through, I'm in a better place now.
Right.
And everything, the whole relationship wasn't, but at the end, be the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
But because he was so vindictive trying to get back at me, this is the result. Like I said, when I walked in there and I seen his body, and I walked up to his body laying in this body bag with no shirt on and this tube sticking out of his mouth where they tried to incubate him and he went into cardiac arrest and had his head all taped up. I walked right up to his body and I was like, you know what? I never wanted it to go down like this, but
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. You have just given me two things back,
Right.
and I could never have asked for much more. You have just given me my life
Yes.
and my son.
How old was your son, Melissa?
Son, when his father died, was 6.
Wow. How is he today without his dad? Does he kind of put the two together, or he was too young to even realize what had happened?
Well, he knows what happens now because
Mm-hmm.
we have done the necessary work. We have gone to counseling.
Okay.
Um, and Darius is prosperous in everything that he does now. We were able to, although I had gotten into another situation after his father's,
Yes.
in Baltimore, but DJ got back here to New York. He graduated high school with honors.
Wow.
Uh, you know,
Praise God.
college part time. He works part time. He knows we went through counseling and we were at some point in counseling where I had to explain to him because even though his father took me through all of that, I still never spoke bad about his father in front of him because his father was his everything. His father was his everything because his father used to play video games with him
Right.
and whatever things that I did not do because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
into video games. But because he's just like a little child, so he sit
Mm-hmm.
there, he play. So his father was his everything. And although he took me through whatever he took me through,
Mm-hmm.
I made sure I kept the two separate.
Right.
You understand? I want, my love for my son was greater than me trying to bash his father or
Absolutely.
whatever. I
Yes.
want you to learn who your father was without without me saying, oh, well, your father was a piece of this and your father was a piece of that. I want you to grow. But then, when I started to come out and I decided that I wasn't going to stay silent anymore
Right.
and I did my book, then he saw articles where I was in magazines and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I remember the very first magazine I was in, and I was so excited and I showed my son or whatever, and he would read the article.
Mm-hmm.
And he is more like, "Oh, okay, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like really which don't really bother him. So he's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, when the book came out and he was able to um we were able to have a discussion about it because I wanted to have that full discussion outside of therapy with him, just in case his friends or
Yeah.
somebody seen the book that he would know because this was some stuff. And so we had this conversation. And I remember the very first time um, his girlfriend was over here and he was excited about the book. And he was like, yeah, I heard him. I was in the room and I heard he wrote a book. And when he
Mm-hmm.
came in here, he was like, "Oh, let me get a copy of your book." He was so excited he wanted to show her.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him say to his girlfriend, "You know who she's talking about? My father was her first abuser." And I was in here like that
Right.
because I never thought I would see the day that he would put them two together, use them two words in the same sentence. His father was an abuser. So he's learned to embrace it.
Right.
It is what it is. He
Right.
knows that um, I have some concerns and some reservations about him uh, being like his father because
Mm-hmm.
it is learned, and him and my daughter have seen and heard a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, um, both of the kids are very good.
Yes. I commend you and others on that are watching tonight. They commend you too on making sure they had the therapy that you thought they needed to get through that to make them who they are today. And that's commendable that you did that. Um, so how did you end up in another abusive relationship? And how long ago was that second one after your first one?
It was about 3 years after my
Mhm.
husband.
Okay.
I just had that one about 7 years ago,
Wow.
and um, he also tried to kill me with his
How?
hands. He choked me. He choked me, and within seconds of me losing consciousness, I had started to lose bodily fluids. He choked me while I was sitting
Good
on the toilet in the
grief.
bathroom.
So
Um,
how did it start? How did it start? Did you just get to that point, or did you was it gradual? Did you not see it coming? Did you how did tell us like you did the first one how you got into this relationship?
okay, well, it started as all of them. They start gradual, and
Okay.
they start differently. Um, so what happened was when I was moving, the stuff that was in the old apartment, I decided that I was going to bring some of that stuff to my new apartment. I didn't want everything, but there were some things that I did want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hired this moving company and truck.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we started dating. I remember he had called me the next day. They actually forgot my microwave plate in the truck. He
Mm-hmm.
called me and said, "Can you check your microwave and see? I think this plate in the back of the truck is yours." I go to check the microwave. Sure enough, my plate is not in there. So he says, "Well, when I get off tomorrow, I can stop by and I can bring the plate to you." Okay. He came to bring the plate, and he
Mm-hmm.
came with a bottle of wine and some beautiful roses, a dozen of roses.
Wow, he was fast.
Um, very charming.
Mm-hmm.
Started at some point, we had started dating.
Right.
He was very, another one, very attentive,
Mm-hmm.
um, very charming. Although they were different, like my husband was like a blue collar guy, suit, whatever. This guy was more I guess street, if you would, rugged. You could tell that he was streetwise. He was more streetwise than, you know. And so at some point we had started dating, and I remember um, the very first date that we went on, he had taken me out to dinner at the
Mm-hmm.
steakhouse, and we were just talking. And you know how you get to know somebody. So I had mentioned to him, what had happened, you know, with my husband and the things that he had put me through. And, that was just 3 years prior. I can't go through that again, this, that, so forth and the other. There's no doubt in my mind that he took what I told him
Right.
and did just what I told him I could not go through, and turned it around and did it 20 times as worse than my husband's.
Wow. So how
And
fast did it start happening? What happened to lead up to getting closer with him after you shared your story with him?
well, we were good for about 2 years,
Okay.
and everything was fine for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got pregnant, and then I had suffered a miscarriage,
Mm.
and then
Sorry.
I had saw something in his behavior then changed, but I couldn't exactly put my finger on exactly what it was, like what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then soon after that miscarriage, I think like a month or two or so, I got pregnant again,
Mm.
and it resulted in another miscarriage.
Wow.
And so um, then I saw, like, right after the second miscarriage, I saw him do like this 360 degree. And I was like, So what I thought was going to bring us closer together, because I'm saying, okay, well, he didn't just lose a baby. I
Mhm.
lost babies too. So we got into an argument. I don't even remember what we was arguing about. And I remember him saying, I think something to the effect of, "You're the reason the babies died," or something.
Wow, how insensitive.
And he said, "Wait a minute. So are you blaming me
Wow.
for not being able to carry the babies full term?" And so one thing just sort of kind of led to another. And then that's when it dawned on me, okay, he thinks that it's my fault that I had these miscarriages. So I remember after the second one, I ended up getting pregnant again, and it resulted in another miscarriage.
Wow.
And I remember saying, "That's it. I ain't I ain't finna be bothered with this here no more." And when I went to the doctor said to me, um, since he never wanted to go and really find out what was the reason for the miscarriages, I made the decision that when I went to a doctor's appointment, and they said to me that I had a fibroid uterus.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I got pregnant and the pregnancy grew, the pregnancy was growing with the fibroids. The fibroids was growing and they were pushing the babies out.
Right.
That's why I couldn't keep the babies.
Right.
And so the doctor said to me, "Well, listen, if you're absolutely sure that you don't want no more kids, we could do a hysterectomy." I was like, "Sign me up,
Right.
sign me up." And so I made they scheduled me to get the hysterectomy,
Mm-hmm.
and I count that as a blessing that I wasn't tied to him for the rest of my life. So I was like, "Oh, thank God I dodged that bullet. Jesus Christ. Like, oh, you got to be kidding me." And so I went and I had a hysterectomy. And then I started to see like little things like he would drink, but in the beginning, he was drinking just to be sociable. Like sometimes on the weekend when he came home from work, he would buy like maybe two long necks of Heineken beer and drink those and be absolutely fine and content with it. And then he went from now drinking two long necks of Heineken beers just on the weekends to now he's buying a whole six pack every night when he comes home from work.
Wow.
And so I'm noticing that every time he drink, he's getting real irrational. He's this, that, so forth and together. And I was like, okay, you've got to be kidding me. And then it just got worse. And then I remember um, one day fixing some food and
Mm-hmm.
went to give him his food or whatever, and he took the plate and threw the food up against the wall, up
Oh
on the ceiling.
my God.
So I remember saying to him, "I don't know what you gonna eat, cause there ain't enough food. Cause all that's left now is enough for me and DJ to eat. I don't know what you gonna eat."
Right.
And so he just went off and this and that, and so he would just go on and on and on. At some point, when he hit me in the street the day before my birthday, and he fractured my nose,
Good grief.
and so um, my birthday is in July,
Mm-hmm.
July 1st.
July
So the
what?
streets are full of people.
I'm sorry.
The
July
21st
what?
of June,
Thir
the
13?
the 21st.
21st? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so um I went to the store to get a gallon of water,
Uh-huh.
and I had left him upstairs. But it was this neighborhood guy that was in a wheelchair, and he had always, "I want you to speak to him because he like you." And I was like, "What?" Like I thought he was joking. I said, "You see all of this, and that's all you think I can get is a guy in a wheelchair?" And so he was like, "I don't want you talking to him." Now this guy had never did anything to me. He had never said anything inappropriate to me. So to
Right.
me, I was like, I thought it was craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And so this day I go to the store. I'm coming out the store. Who's coming in the store? The guy in the wheelchair. So he holds the door for me to come out, and then I grab the door for him to wheel himself in.
Right.
I let the door go. We both say thank you. I let the door go. That was it. and I turned around to go around the corner to go back to my house. I didn't even know he had come outside. And without any warning, as soon as I turned the corner, he hit me with his fist. Whack!
Mm.
He hit me so hard, I flew into front of a parked car. The alarm started going off. The bag with the water broke. It went sliding across in the middle of the street. And I'm standing there, and now my nose is bleeding, and I can feel it swelling up. Nobody did anything.
Wow.
And I'm standing there. I ended up, I had my cell phone. I had to call the police. I had to call the ambulance and everything for myself. I bought my birthday in St. Barnabas Hospital, getting the x-rays and stuff for my nose to find out that he had fractured my nose.
Good grief.
That's the start of when I was like, okay, I know I've got to go.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he, I guess at some point he realized like, I know, I know you're gonna leave. And he said to me, if you leave, I promise you, I'll kill your kids
Oh my
and I'll kill your
God.
mother. And so now I'm stuck. Like, what do I do with that? So now I'm stuck. And I'm like, so what do I do? Do I take my chances on leaving and then he makes good on his word? And so my thought was always that since my son was a minor and he was with me, my daughter was grown and she had already moved out and she
Mm-hmm.
had gotten married. So my thought was, what would make me think that I would go to wake my son up for school one day and he has already killed my son in his room in the bed?
Right.
And so I was like, oh God. So I stayed there for 4 years and I let him go upside my head and I let him do these
Mhm.
things to me until I can figure out how I can get myself and my son out safely and how I can make sure that I didn't jeopardize him killing my mother because the I can't have him killing my mother or my kids or my conscience knowing that I'm the reason that this happened. So I stayed another 2 years. So now we 4 years in and things have really started getting rough. And there was times that I was just like, I just can't. I just wanted to give up. And I was like, if he don't kill me, I wanted to kill myself. And I didn't think about all the people that I would be hurting, my mother, my siblings, my kids. I just wanted the pain to stop. I'm being beat every day. I can't tell nobody. I couldn't tell my mother. The reason I left because she didn't believe me about my husband. So how can I go back and tell her that I'm in the same situation again
Mm-hmm.
because she didn't believe me the first time? So they made it easy for me to keep it a secret.
Right.
And he almost killed me too. I remember he had come in one day arguing. And I remember saying to him, yo, please just go upstairs. Like, God, I don't want to hear this. And to keep from hearing all this argument or whatever, I went and locked myself in the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom and I'm sitting on the toilet. And he's standing at the bathroom door and he's just shaking the door. Open the door. I just want to talk to you. Just open the door. I just want to talk to you. And I'm saying, I know what's going to happen if I open this door. I'm not going to open this door. I'm sitting on the toilet, and within seconds, he kicks the bathroom door open, whoop, and coming in, and he launched at me while I'm sitting on the toilet. Got my head leaned back, his thumbs pressed up against my windpipe, and I couldn't breathe. And I'm trying to reach up at his face to scratch his face, but I'm looking at him, so now I'm just tears are just uncontrollably. I can't stop my tears, and he is pressing harder and harder, and I'm looking up at him and I'm trying to mouth at him like, why? Like I couldn't understand why. And he's applying so much pressure and he's saying to me, I'll kill you right here and right now. And I'll sit here in the house with your body until your son comes home from school.
Mm.
Then he let me go and he walks out the bathroom like everything is okay and go in the living room and start watching TV. And I was like, and I closed the bathroom door after he left, and I stayed in the bathroom, just putting water on my face and just looking in the face, just looking in the mirror. And I just kept crying. I can't believe I'm in this situation again. There was times that I just begged, just please kill me. It has got to be better than going through this every single day. Just, just kill me. And I remember I was like, now I done moved to Baltimore. So I done left my family here. I have no family in Baltimore. There's nobody out there but just my son and I.
Right.
And I'm like, and then I remember saying, I purchased the gun. And I remember saying, if he come in here and start with me today, I promise you I'm going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got hooked up to this counselor who did house calls, and she would come out and she would counsel me. And she actually understood. She was a black lady,
Mm-hmm.
but she actually understood me
Right.
because she had actually been through it herself, and she wasn't used to be an addict. So she wasn't just counseling me for what I wanted to hear through textbooks. Like she really, really know what I was feeling. And there was times that I said things to her, like I told her, I'm gonna kill him. If he come, I promise you, if he comes, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. I was willing to do the time, and I was done. And I remember he had come in this one particular day, and I had decided that I was gonna leave. I didn't know how I was gonna leave. I didn't know how I was gonna get back to New York, but I just know that I had to go, and I was leaving. And I was logged on Facebook, and I saw a friend, and I reached out to him, and I sent him a message, and I was like, "Listen, I've always told my friends and family that if I died, that I've always told them that I love birds of paradise." And so when I reached out to this guy, I said to him, "Yo, I need you to come and get me a DJ like yesterday, because if not, you're gonna be sending birds of paradise to my funeral." And he said, "I'll call you back tomorrow. Let me make some phone calls." And he called me back the next day, and he said to me that him and another mutual friend was gonna come and get DJ and I over the weekend. And I had planned to leave February 28th, and I never made it to February 28th because a couple of days after Tim said that they were going to come get me, I was in the kitchen cooking, getting ready to cook, and I was cutting up a whole chicken, and I had just got finished washing off the butcher knife where I was cutting the whole chicken and putting it in the dryer. And I remember him coming in, and I don't even remember what he was arguing about. And I remember saying to him, "Listen, I don't want to hear this, not tonight. Just like, please leave me alone." And I remember him saying, "See, that's why I do what I do to you, because you won't never fucking listen to me." And I remember turning around and saying, "But you know what? You not gonna hit me, not tonight." And I could see him because I had glass cabinets. So I could see him standing behind me. And then he kept talking. "Oh, well, you must have grew you some balls, or you must have ate your Wheaties or whatever. You talking real slick at your mouth and all of this stuff." And I didn't say anything. And then I could see him moving up towards me, but then his voice kept getting closer and closer to me. So before he got too far up in my space, I reached over in the dryer with the butcher knife and put it up to my chest like this, thinking that if he saw it, he knew that I was serious. Like, "You're not gonna hit me tonight. You're not gonna come launching at me like I'm tired." And I put it up, and I'm saying to myself, "Okay, I know he ain't stupid enough that he want me that bad that he gonna come and try to launch at me." So I put the knife up there, and he went like that to try to make me flinch, and I didn't flinch. So, so he said, "Oh, so you think you bad? So you're not gonna flinch?" I was like, "You call it. You say whatever it is you want to say." So he did it again, and I didn't flinch again. The next time he did it, I didn't flinch. He must have thought I was going to move the knife, and I didn't move the knife, and he launched right on it. He was so desperately wanting to get at me, he launched right on the knife, and he caught it right here. And I took that as my chance to leave. I had a suitcase packed. I grabbed my suitcase. I grabbed my cell phone. I grabbed my jacket. And on my way out the door, I snatched the phone out the wall so he couldn't make no phone calls, couldn't call the police enough. I went running down the streets of Baltimore and went hid in John Hopkins women's bathroom. Called my son from the after school program and told him, "You need to leave the after school program and meet me up at John Hopkins right now because we need to get the last bus back to New York." My son came, called me when he got out front. We got in a cab and went to the bus station. The last bus leaving Baltimore was at 8 o'clock. We pulled up to the bus station at 7:56, just in time enough for me to pay, run in, get 2 tickets, and turn around, and the bus was pulling up. And I never been back.
Wow. You have been through a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm speechless. My nephew said, um, it's sad because he sees things like this at work, and most don't make it out to tell their story. Just last week, there's a guy from that he had to stop from choking his girlfriend. This you He says you are a true soldier, and God is with you, and God is with you. I agree with you, nephew. I don't know how you did it, but I am so grateful that you are sharing your stories, not story, with others to help them through domestic violence. And it breaks my heart because so many of us have witnessed it, or we've been through it ourselves. We have actually experienced it. And um do you have nightmares? Do you think all men are the same now? I know you have a love of your life. Now, on Facebook, you had mentioned that I believe the love of your life is the one that got you out, that pulled you out. Is that correct?
Yes. He, this, the guy that Tim reached out to was
Yes.
actually was actually a guy that I had dated when I was a teenager, when I was 16. So he was like my first love. He was
Right.
like my first everything.
Yes.
And so we always remained friends, although um, we separated when I was like 19, and he went his way, I went my way, and then he got married and it didn't work out, and I got married or whatever.
Right.
And so when Tim reached out to him and said to him, "Listen, like Melissa is in trouble, like she needs help," and he didn't hesitate. He came down. They rented a U-Haul truck. They went back down after DJ and I had left, fled, and they went back down with my daughter, and they loaded up my stuff, and they brought it back here and put it up in storage or whatever. And we have been together ever since. I we tend to sabotage good relationships,
Yes.
especially when you have been in so many bad relationships.
Right.
And I know one of the things I had said to him when we first started talking about that we were going to try to make this work as adults because we were children
Mm-hmm.
when we were together the first time. And one of the things I said to him is, "I'm not that same Melissa. Like, so much has happened
Mm-hmm.
to me. Not that same person. Like, I don't need, like, if that's the person that you're looking for, she is no longer here.
Right. She's
You
gone.
know,
Right.
she's gone." And I told him it's not by choice.
Yes.
Somebody chose that for me. It wasn't by choice. So I wanted him to know, and understand that there were certain things that he could and could not do that were
Hmm.
triggers for me. Things that he could and could not say that was triggers for me. There was just a lot of adjusting. You know, uh, I just like a baby learning how to walk all over again. I had to learn how to be affectionate because for so long, um, affection looked different to me. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So when he would want to hold my hand or whatever, I always don't, please just don't touch me. I don't want to be bothered. Just leave me alone.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of things that I had to learn over. The good thing about it is that he was willing to go to counseling with me and learn exactly what this whole thing entailed, what trauma, looked like for me. Things that may look real simple and minor to someone else does not look that way to me anymore. Is magnified to like the 10th power. So it looks different to me. You could say something like, oh, well, um, why are you overreacting over that? It's just a boy walking down the street with a navy blue New York
Hmm.
Yankees hat. Me, what I see is my second abuser, which wore a New York Yankee hat, navy blue Yankee hat all the time. Everything looks different to me.
Right.
So when I panic and I'm like, and for some people, you be like, oh, well, what? It's just such and such. So I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, nah, it's different for me. So he had to learn, like, where people would say, oh, you just exaggerate. Like, it ain't that serious. It is that serious for me.
Right.
And yes, to answer your question, I do. I still suffer with PTSD.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
I still have nightmares. I remember when I got back, like I was on 5 medications,
Mm.
and I would just stay zoned out all the time. And one of the things I remember saying is, this is not my life. I'm not going to be high on all this medication all the time.
Hmm.
So I took it for a little while because I was aware that I needed it. And
Hmm.
without it, I probably would have committed suicide.
Wow.
And so I knew that I needed it. And so I said, okay, I'll take it for a little while. But I knew that there were other things that I needed to do in order to get back to my healthy self. Like counseling, going to counseling once a week wasn't going to work for me. I know that I needed to get into support groups.
Right.
I know that I needed to do other things that was going to keep me where I needed to be. And so with utilizing all of that stuff and going to group counseling 3 times a week and doing individual counseling 2 times a week
Hmm.
for about a year, and just making sure I every time it was time to reevaluate my medication to make sure I went back or whatever. And it got to a point that I was no longer on that medication anymore. So I'm only on 2 of them now. And it's only as needed. Like I take meds to definitely help me sleep at night because I have insomnia extremely bad and PTSD and anxiety. I still suffer with anxiety. Like I said, if I can go outside and I see somebody that looks his height
Right.
and we got on New York, but I'm like all over them. I start to panicking and start to shaking or whatever. So I take Xanax when needed.
Wow.
So yes, I still suffer with some of the traumas today. The only difference is that I have learned how to cope and don't let it control me and my everyday living.
So that's the key. You have learned how to cope, meaning you're still in it. It's a daily fight. It's a daily
Yes,
struggle. It's like someone on that has been on drugs and
yes,
or alcohol. This is a coping mechanism that you have to go through on a daily basis to to
absolutely.
deal with what has been done to you.
Absolutely. Because understand trauma, it'll never leave you because it's something that has altered your life.
Yes.
So the key is you learn how to cope with it so that it don't hinders your progress and what your daily living.
Right.
It doesn't keep you from being successful or whatever. You learn how to the tricks and the traits and the things that you can and cannot do. You learn how to deal with those things, cope with it, so that you can be successful in what it is. Because if not, as we see, a lot of people are stuck and they don't know how to, and they let their past trauma continue to haunt them and keep them stuck.
Yes.
That's that's not my life. I can't. Um, everybody move different, and everybody move on their time. What works for them? I just can't see for myself being stuck somewhere 15, 20 years in the same spot, not making no progress.
And I commend you on that. And I want to make sure everybody who's viewing and sharing that we get your GoFundMe page out, because you're going to do awesome things to help people. Because domestic violence isn't a joke. And it's almost like being in a war. It's like being in a war. You come back with all kinds of aches and pains that you got to deal with on a daily basis. And that's what you're doing. What
And
would,
sometimes it's not
mm-hmm.
even on a daily basis. You know, I don't know if you saw the post I put up the other day, a couple of days ago, about this scar that I have here and how I've had back in 2008 because of that hit in the street and him fracturing my nose. The hit was the impact of that hit crushed my C4, 5, and 6. That I have hardware in my neck. I had to have a spinal fusion.
Oh my
But due to
God.
all of that, going to the ear, nose, and throat, my
Right.
voice, this is not my normal voice. My voice has been altered, but I've learned to embrace the scar in my voice. And then I went to the doctor the other day to be told that I have to have another surgery
Wow.
that will then in turn alter my voice again. So sometimes it's just one of those things. For the last couple of days, I can admit I've been angry.
Yes.
When you make progress, I just don't, I've learned to live with how I am now. Although I'm mad that I'm not who I used to be, but I've learned to embrace who I have become now and to be told that I now have to go back and they got to go back into this incision and this whole, first of all, the surgery itself was horrific. Like I spent 2 days in ICU. I spent 6 months sleeping in a neck brace that was extremely uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
to then therapy, which was horrific because of the pain.
Right.
Once they take the neck brace off and my neck just dropped down like this, I now have to learn how to strengthen my neck muscles and hold my neck. And just the process, the recovery for that was horrific. And I don't wish it on nobody to be told that I now have to. I'm just, I've been trying to process this for the last couple of days. And a part of me wants to say, nah, man, I'm not going back through that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot right now. It really is. It's just a lot right now that I don't know. And I don't have a lot of time to decide. Like, I go back to the doctor in 2 weeks. So I need to have a decision,
Right.
yay or nay, or how I'm leaning. But I live with these memories in my head every day. And I look at this scar every day. So this is something that I have to see. And when I
Mm-hmm.
hear myself talk, I always have reminders.
Right.
But that's just something that I just don't want to go back there with that situation, period, point blank, period. I
Right.
just,
Right. I commend you. God is amazing, because you just, I just, the more I heard you, the more I read some of your posts, I just feel like I've known you, and I just think you're an amazing woman. The fact that you have gotten through it. You're no longer a victim. you are victorious because you are sharing your story with others while you are still suffering yourself with all of these, the outcome of domestic violence. And then you've even trusted love again. And I just you're an awesome woman, and I'm grateful that I have a chance to meet you, and I hope and pray we do a lot of things together. And I know some of my friends that are on tonight will be inviting you to some things soon. You are just, you can help so many people, because so many people, as we both know based on your show tonight, you're live, that they don't get out of it. They stay for whatever reasons. They stay. And that's something else I wanted to ask you about. Why do they stay? Why do we stay in relationships that are abusive?
There's many there everybody's situation is different, and there's many reasons why
Mm-hmm.
women stay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things, women stay because especially if they have kids together.
Right.
People for some reason, us women feel for some reason that they want they want their kids to have a two family parent home. But do you want them to have a two parent family home in dysfunction?
Right.
And I tell people all the time, the kids are not the reason you stay. You should look at the kids, and the kids should be the reason
Yeah.
why you leave.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why people stay. Another reason why women stay is if he's the breadwinner and she's never had a job, and he is, he's bringing home the money and she has no way of supporting herself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she'll stay because he's taking care of everything. So she feels like, oh, okay, well, the little bit of hit he does here, or the yelling and the screaming he does here, or he's throwing this and that. They sometimes feel that it's better to stay in that situation than not to have anything.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is another one. As you can see in my situation, uh, a lot of manipulation. Um, Fear is definitely a big part of it.
Yes.
The fear from me, what kept me, because after 2 years, like I said, after the miscarriage and I saw things, I was like, okay, something is not right. But then uh, the manipulation part of it is I'll get into your head and I'll tell you things that I know that you love, or things that you know that you're going to be affected by, that will keep you. I know you don't want me to hurt this, that, and the third. So you're going to stay here because you're afraid that I am going to do what I say. And that's what kept me, because my fear was he have already displayed to me that he was capable of killing me.
Yes.
So I didn't dare take it for a joke that he wasn't capable of doing and
Mm-hmm.
killing my kids and my mother.
Right.
So to me, if you're capable of killing me, you are definitely capable of doing exactly what you said you were going to do. Um, Another reason, a lot of times they don't have nowhere to go.
Right.
Once again, the house is being supplied for them. They moved in with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's supplying everything, and they don't have no place to go. Like I tell people, go into a shelter. There are resources. Go into a shelter. I don't know. People are so, I am not going into a shelter. I
Yeah.
am all for going into a shelter if it's going to keep you and your kids alive. But what you have to understand is that you're going in and you're not going to spend a lifetime there. You don't make, but you're going in there. It's just a stepping stone until you can get yourself back on your feet. It may require you to do some things that you might not want to do, like
Mm-hmm.
go apply for food stamps. Hell, go apply for food stamps.
Right. Right.
Everybody wish they had food stamps right now, including me.
That's right.
But not to say, but everybody is so, oh, food stamps, you getting food stamps. If that's the way that you can feed your kids
Yeah.
and yourself now, and you're in a safe place, girl, get up and go apply for food stamps. What's the problem?
Right.
You
Right.
know, people get this assumption, oh, I'm gonna get into a shelter. And you only stay in a shelter if you're too lazy to do the work. They have
Mm-hmm.
counselors and stuff there that are supposed to help you with housing, seeking housing. They're supposed to give you a list to go check out apartments and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
You utilize those resources. So if you're gonna be lazy and not do what you need to do to get better for you and your child, and you just gonna stay there and opt out of it until they throw you out. Of course, you don't want to, but I'm all for it. Go into shelter.
Right.
There are so many reasons why people stay. You know, that one of the parents, he might have kidnapped the kids.
Wow.
There are so many reasons why people stay. You kidnapped the kids, although um, that was a situation of mine too. Before he had
Mm-hmm.
actually taken, I remember I came home from work and my husband had left me a note that he had taken DJ and he wasn't bringing him back.
Wow.
I remember going to the precinct and saying to them, taking the note and showing to them, my husband kidnapped my son. The police told me that's his father, right? I said, yeah. They said, how can a father kidnap his child?
Wow.
I was like, really? But now, had I kidnapped him
Right.
and he was down there, that situation would have been totally different. They'd have been looking for me.
Right.
He went down there and they told me that's his father.
Wow.
How a father going to kidnap his son? It is so many reasons why people stay. So many reasons.
So,
It's ridiculous.
so for a woman that hears that, so a woman who fears to leave because of the threat of killing you and the kids, or any of us and our kids, what can we tell them tonight to get them beyond that fear, even though it's a 90% chance that he could, like you said, follow through on the threat?
Well, what I would definitely say is, so like you heard me say tonight, is a safety plan is definitely, um, if someone has the time to put a safety plan in place,
Mm-hmm.
get all your important papers and make sure he doesn't have access to them. Make sure you have a suitcase, you know, um, tucked away with you and the kids' clothes or whatever, just in case that opportunity comes that you have to leave, you will have that stuff. Definitely, a safety plan is definitely a must to have. Like you heard me say tonight, like I did everything wrong and I
Mm-hmm.
still, I still survived it. You heard me say that on my live.
Yes.
I don't suggest people do it like that, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to see the opportunity and seize the opportunity and just get the.
Right. I didn't
But
see anything wrong with what you did. If can you share with my live what you did when you got
yeah,
stuff together?
well, like I said, with my husband, that was a spur of the moment thing that I knowing that I didn't have no place to stay. And so now I'm sleeping in at my workplace and then, um, sleeping at the hotel till the money ran out and stuff like that. Most people would say, well, why you didn't go to family or why you didn't tell family. Once again, when I tried to tell my mother,
Mm-hmm.
nobody believed me. So they believed my husband. So I had to um, remove myself from that situation
Right.
for my mother and them to do what I needed to do, or to be able to even try to to function the way I needed to, because I still have my daughter. So that's something I did, because people would say, well, well, why did you leave? And my question is, would you have rather me to stay in a toxic situation like that longer than I needed to be in? I was already there longer than I should have been anyway,
Right.
you
Right.
know? But would you have rather me continue to stay there in that toxic situation opposed to getting out? So my thing was, I felt like it was better for me if I had to sleep in the doctor's office with my daughter. At least I know we were safe. We was at the doctor's office. To me, we were safe. We were safer at the doctor's office or at the hotel than we were being there with my husband.
Now I want to take my hat off to you again. You hustled. You did what you had to do. You took care of your baby girl. You stayed in the doctor's office where you knew it was going to be safe. You took her out of that environment. And I just, I'm sitting here in awe. You just keep amazing me. The fact that you did that, and you did it for 6 months and got her dressed to go to school. And I'm just,
Fear, uh, my fear was that somebody at the school would find out, and I already didn't have my son because he had taken my son. And so my fear was I cannot let her not go to school. I had to pretend like things were as normal as possible
right,
and get her off to school before someone suspect that something is going on and call ACS, and then they come and they take my daughter too. And I,
right.
then I'm in another situation.
Yes. But you did it and you got it. You had to have her so calm and cool and collected that she didn't even think anything was wrong because she didn't talk about it at school. That's
Right.
that's amazing. That is amazing. And my heart goes out to you.
And
Um
I think because she was a mama's girl too,
okay.
so she's always, like when we left, my husband said to her, I put your mother out, but you don't have to go. You can stay here with your brother.
Wow.
And she said to him, you put my mother out, you put me out too. And she
Wow.
told him, if my mother going to sleep on a park bench, I'm going to sleep on a park bench with my mother.
Wow, that's commendable. Your daughter is amazing. And how old was she when you had her in the doctor's office?
She was 11.
Wow. And that's the age they talk. That's the age they tell everything. Wow.
But she was such a mommy's girl that she she couldn't see being away from me. And like still to this day, as old as she is, she'll be 31. And she calls me for everything. She
Wow.
got three kids of her own, and she, Ma. And if I'm out of town and I'm going away, and she'll call me, Ma, when you coming back home? I missed you. And so she's
Oh,
such a mommy's girl that I just couldn't see her saying anything because she knew what was at stake. You go to
right.
school and you say something, you go to school and you say something that somebody get a whiff of this, and they're gonna take you away from me, just like DJ. And so she managed to act like nothing was wrong, and I would go to school and pick her up, and you know she act as if we both act like we were going home, like we had a house to go to or whatever. I would pick her up, we would turn around and get back on the train. There was times that we would go out and eat because I knew the doctors were staying later at work, so there was some nights they didn't leave until 8 o'clock. So
Right.
we would stay out until about 8:30, and then I would go. We would walk by the office. I would see all the lights and stuff was out, so I know that everybody had gone. I would just go on in there with go on to the doctor's office.
Um, I got just a few more questions with you because you've had a busy night tonight. Um,
Okay.
how what can you tell single women to watch out for these type of men, or better yet, what are the signs that we can share with these women that are dating? Because you said in your case, which is frightening to me because I didn't realize until you said it, that I always thought there were signs day one. But you said he built up, he charmed you for 2 years, and then all hell broke loose. So
Mhm.
what is it always like that, or are there signs that women can look at before they and examine before they go head over heels in love? What are some of the signs besides going from charm to yelling and screaming at you? I've heard of that
See,
sign, but what are some of the
yeah.
other signs we need to look out for?
But some of the other signs, see, I want people to be aware that you really don't see signs in the beginning. But the good thing about females is that we have women's intuition.
Yes.
So a lot of times when we feel something is not right in our spirit,
Mm-hmm.
it's not right.
Okay.
But a lot of times we'll feel something and we may be feeling him. So it's like, oh no, well maybe I'm just overthinking something. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
not what I think.
You're
And we
right.
tend to push it to the side to, oh, but he cute and all of that. No, I'm
Right.
feeling him. Maybe this is just one isolated incident. And we don't usually go with our gut feel. I tell everybody,
Yes.
if you get that gut feeling, go with it.
Okay. Okay.
Because I say like this, you rather be safe than sorry.
Yes.
It can totally be innocent. It can be totally be something real small. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. And anything that don't feel right in my being from this day forward, I'm going with the win fabulous.
Right.
I'm not trying to stick around to see if it's going to be a second incident, if it's going to be a third incident, if it's going to be a fourth one. All it takes is one. And he could be my future husband, and he could have been the one on out the door. But because he done made one foolish move, he ain't my
Right.
future husband no more. Because I'm gone.
Right. I got you.
And that's what I want women to understand. Go with your feeling, go with that intuition. Don't just push it aside like it's nothing, like you over exaggerating, you thinking too much about it. It's telling you something. Because I promise you, my husband's name was Donald, but I
Mm-hmm.
used to call him D. This second guy that I got with,
Mm-hmm.
when he introduced himself to me, he introduced himself as D. His real name is
Mm.
Don. The minute he said D out his mouth, I promise you, on my right hand to God, I got this feeling in my stomach like I felt like I had to throw up.
Wow.
I was like, what the? I know this fool didn't just say D.
Right.
And he did. Now, here go Melissa, how we and what us women do.
Yeah.
Oh, just because that man did that to you, don't mean that that man is going to, because these are two different men.
Right.
I did that. I played that same foolishness because I promise you, when that gut feeling, when that thing, that wind was knocked out of me when he mentioned his name, I promise you, my ass should have went running the other way
Right.
immediately.
Right.
But I didn't because I'm looking and I'm saying, well, my husband, he ain't like my husband. They two different men. That don't mean he gonna do what my husband did. That don't mean. And I gave that fool a chance.
Wow.
I had got that gut feeling and didn't go with it. And that dude turned out to be my worst nightmare.
Yes. So we got to go with our gut feeling because we do get them. And you're right. We downplay them, we ignore them, we brush them under the table, the carpet, whatever. We don't deal with it. We act
Absolutely.
like we don't feel it and we ignore it. And that it's
Absolutely.
where we go wrong. We ignore those
Absolutely.
signs. How in the world have you managed to trust again? And how in the world is your fiance able to cope with you being on the streets and think you're running into Mr. New York again with his cap on? How does he deal? I know you said you both go to therapy. How counseling rather. How does he deal with you when you're having those bad days? How can he help manage the situation? Is he does he get it is and does he ever get upset with you and say, I don't know, this is just too much for me, I'm not that person? Has he does he have to constantly remind you that he's not that person that hurt you?
No, he never reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he's really really patient, especially when I have nightmares and I'm waking up crying and screaming or whatever.
Wow.
And he'll wake me up and I'll jump up and I'll realize where I am. And he'll go, you had a nightmare again. And I'll go, yeah. And he'll just lay there where he was like, but you're safe now, you know.
Wow.
And so he sort of kind of holds me until I fall back to sleep and stuff like that. But he never says to me or gets upset with me. A lot of times when he see a lot of times that I'm going through something or I'm going
Hmm.
through the moment or whatever,
Yeah.
he'll just leave me alone and he'll let me deal with it how I want to. And then he'll say, well, if you want to talk, I'll be in the living room.
Wow.
So he'll leave out the bedroom, he'll go in the living room, and and then after he felt like I've been in here for a long time, he'll peek back in the door and he'll go, "Are you okay?" I go, "Yeah, I'm fine now." But he sort of kind of, for the most part, just let me feel whatever it is I'm feeling so that I can deal with it. So like I'm not suppressing those feelings, if you will. So
Right.
he sort of kind of lets me, just let me deal with them and stuff like that. Now, to answer your question about running into Mr. New York, I have run into Mr. New York last year.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you saw my post about 2 weeks ago. I made a post. Well, actually, yeah, about 2 weeks ago, August 29th,
Uh-huh.
which is when my daughter had my last granddaughter. And that was the day that I ran into Mr. New York for the very first time in 7 years since I've been back.
Wow.
Uh,
What in the
my
world?
daughter called, my daughter called me and she was in labor and she says, "Oh, they admitted me into the hospital. They're going to induce labor." So I says, "Okay, I'm on my way." So I hop in the shower and I'm trying to get dressed because I live in the Bronx. So now I have to travel to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
So on my way to Brooklyn, I stopped by my mom's house and I got on the bus from my mother's house and took the bus to 125th Street and Lexington Avenue because I needed to take the 4 train.
Mm-hmm.
So when on the train on 125th Street, I get on the train, I'm looking up and down the train like this, and when I get on the cart and see him standing down the cart. So our eyes locked.
Oh my God.
And so I looked and I just kept, so I went to sit down. And so that day he had to work, so he didn't go to Brooklyn with me because I didn't know if I was coming back that night because I didn't know if my daughter was going to give birth
Right.
that night or not.
Right.
And so he had said to me, "Take the knife, this little knife he bought me, like a little box cutter. He told me to take it off the dresser when I left." So I took it off and I put it in my jeans pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get to 25th Street, like I said, I seen him on the train, and I was looking down, and I could see from my peripheral that he is starting to walk down the train to where I am. And so he comes and he stands up in front of me. He's holding on to the rail, and he looks down at me. He says, "So you're not gonna say hello?" I turn around. I said, "I know you ain't talking to me."
Wow.
So he says, "Oh, well, I see you still a bitch." And I
Oh.
said that would be Miss Bitch to you. And so I remember putting my hand in my pocket just in
Right.
case I had to pull the knife out.
Right.
And so he says to me, "Well, I've been looking for you." And I said to him, "Well, you ain't been looking for me that hard because I ain't hard to find. Because we actually live in the same borough. We live in the Bronx. We live on two different sides."
Uh-huh.
And I said, "You ain't been looking hard enough because I ain't hard to find." So my thought is, I'm saying to my head, "Oh, God, I hope he ain't coming to make me open him up again
Right.
because then I'm going to jail and I'm not going to make it to the hospital to see the birth of my granddaughter."
Right.
So now, mind you, the dream that I continuously have that I've been having for the last 7 years is that we see each other in the street, our eyes lock just like that, and he starts shooting at me. And I'm just running throughout my whole dream, and I'm running up, and he's shooting at me. So now I'm in this train car and it stops in between the tunnels. It's not moving now. And he's just standing here, he's just talking, and he's just talking. And so he says, well, I should have killed you
Oh
when I
my
had the children. So
God.
I said, yeah, you should have, and that was your mistake that you didn't. Because guess what? I ain't the same person I was 7 years ago. So try me if you must. And so then the train starts to move. And so um, it gets to my stop, and I get stand up to get ready to get off the train, and he's standing there, and he was like, "Fuck you, your bitch." I said, "Your mother," and the train doors closed. And I remember as I walked up the stairs, I took a deep breath, and I had to stop on the landing because it was a sigh of release. So I just bust out and started crying. And this lady comes, and she was like, "Sweetie, are you okay?" And I was like, yeah, I think so. She gave me some tissue, and it
Mhm.
was a sigh of relief because my dream didn't come true.
Right.
And it was sort of like a relief. I was like, oh God, thank God.
Yes.
And all I could do was, okay, I must have stood there and cried for about 3 minutes. And I was like, okay, Melissa, get yourself together. You
Mhm.
got to get to the hospital. Yasmin is waiting for you. And so I pulled myself together. I went on up the stairs, went to transfer to the next train, and
Mhm.
made it to the hospital. And so when I got there, I didn't say anything to my daughter because she kept saying, "Are you all right, Ma?" I was like, "This ain't about me. This is about you. I'm here." Like I didn't want to talk about it. So she ended up
Mhm.
not giving birth that night. The baby didn't come until the next morning, so I slept at the hospital with her. And so I ended up telling her after baby was here and I was getting ready to leave. She was like, "Is something wrong?" I was like, "I saw Derwin on the train." And she was like, "Ma, are you okay?" I was like, "This wasn't about me. This was about you trying to get this baby into this world. Don't worry about me.
Right.
I'm okay or
Right.
whatever." But yeah, I seen him last year for the first time in 7 years.
So you were not that same woman though, and you didn't show any fear. But isn't it sad that he didn't change?
Exactly. Very sad. That was my same thought. Exactly.
Right.
And my biggest thought was how nobody, when I saw him walking down the train car, and I'm saying to myself, when I looked around me,
Right.
I see people sitting on the train playing their games. People
Yes.
are listening to music and
Right.
they doing all of this. And so my first thought was, oh my God, I'm gonna have to fight. If he comes down here starting, once again, I'm gonna have to fight to defend my own self because ain't nobody paying attention. Nobody
Right.
wants to get involved. And now I'm gonna have to fight it out here on this train. He gonna make me open him up again
Yes.
was my first thought. When I looked around, ain't nobody got somebody over here bopping to the music. The other one ain't nobody paying no attention to what's going on.
But he didn't bother you this time because he saw courage in you. He saw that you are conquerors now. You are not that woman that he met back so many over 7 years ago. You're not that same woman. So he couldn't do anything else but do a verbal assault. But what I would like to know is why do we as victims of domestic violence and are survivors of domestic violence, why don't what is keeping these evil people from being behind bars? Is it because of lack of proof, or what is it? Because we don't break the chain of abuse if they're not locked up somewhere where we don't ever have to deal with them again, at least for a long period of time, with the hopes that they get some therapy while they're in there. Of course, I'm probably thinking too optimistic, but why aren't they locked up? Why is it there? It's okay for them to move on when we're left holding the baggage of the pain that they've caused.
It's the system.
It's the system.
The system has failed so many. There needs to be stiffer laws
Yeah.
against the perpetrators, and it's just the system. The system is extremely messed up. That's why it is so important. They have what you call Labor Day up in Albany, where you get to go and you speak to the senators and the
Mm-hmm.
congressmen and stuff, and you go and you get to talk to them like one on one
Mm-hmm.
and present your case if you've been a victim of domestic violence, and you get to share your stories with them and let them know why they need to have certain bills passed and why they need to have certain, stiffer laws for certain bills and how they need to get this amount of time, and like things just need to be a lot different. I've gone up to lobby day for 3 years in a row to try to get some bills passed,
Mm-hmm.
to share my stories, and it's extremely important that people take the time to uh, do some of the legwork and do some of the advocacy and stuff that needs to be done. Like you just can't sit and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry this happened to you, and I'm all for what you're doing." It's one thing to say it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's another thing to actually do it. And that's what we are learning. Like so many people um, say they support this and they support that, but then yet and still they don't do what is necessary to have some of these changes made.
Well, I can assure you, if you put out instructions or guidance for women on our Facebook pages about what you're doing and what you need support with, and as well as reaching out to other survivors, I guarantee you will get the support you need to get a bill passed or to go to Congress or to fly somewhere or catch a bus somewhere, to stand in in unity to get something accomplished, because it's just a vicious cycle. And because we know their congressmen beating the wives, their policemen doing it, their lawyers doing it, somewhere we got to come together and realize it's not going to take place. It's not going to be more stringent laws if we don't come together as one. And that's another night about women in general coming together as one. But
Right.
even those who have never experienced it come together as one to support this mission, because it's got to stop. It's got to stop. You turn on the TV every day, and a man has killed a wife and his own children, not his stepkids, his own children. And I'm like, when is it gonna ever stop? It's just getting worse. And we
Yeah.
got to do something. We got to. And that's what I was going to ask you tonight. What can I do to help you? And again, if you can put something out on Facebook, I don't care what you post on mine, tag me forever, whatever you're doing, because we have to do something. It's
Right.
beyond, like you said, talking about it, listening about it. It's time we do something, because it's only going to get worse. And now we got the young people who grew up seeing us get abused, and now it's a vicious cycle for sure enough. And we got to
Absolutely.
stop that. There should be training like the lady Katie Graves that you interviewed tonight. There should be a curriculum, a part of the curriculum in the schools, in the middle schools, to talk about domestic violence, and also to share with the children, if this is happening in your home, come tell us. They need to do that and stop not talking about it. Stop not talking about it in the churches. Like
Absolutely.
Katie said, they need to be in the churches, but the pastors are doing it. The deacons are doing it.
Hmm.
The deaconesses are doing it. So everybody is sweeping it under the rug, but enough is enough, because it's affecting everybody. the health, the ailments that you are going through today. That's not right to you. That's not fair. You shouldn't have to be going through all of that.
Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
please, whatever you're doing, tag me. You're the only person I want tagging me. Whatever you need, just send something out. Let us know. I would like to support you, and whatever we can do to help you do what you're doing. You keep sharing your story because people need to hear it. You're raw. It ain't pretty. And I love that about you. You just putting it out there like it happened. You didn't sugarcoat it. You didn't put the little pretty bow on it. You didn't add the rose to it. You just put it out there. And you went through that and you got through it. That's what I want the listeners to know tonight. She got through it. She's still that beautiful rose. She's strong as ever. She's conqueror. She ready to go to the next mission, and she's ready to help others to not have to go through what she has gone through. And always trust your intuition. Don't ignore it, sisters. We have a tendency to always ignore what we know we shouldn't be doing in the first place. So, Melissa, I thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you're going to get some questions, and I'm just going to send them to you, or you be looking at them and you answer them. Feel free to do that. I would like to have you back on the WBGR sometime. If you're ever in DC, I definitely want to hook up with you so we can do some things on this side of town.
Okay.
And if you need me to come to your side, like I said, whatever we can do to help somebody's life better than it is today, because
Absolutely.
we don't have to stay in these horrific situations that only lead to death, our mental
Absolutely.
our even mental anguish, and worse, our children. So I thank you so much, and I thank everybody for being online tonight. This was not a pretty conversation, but it need to be heard because it's happening. It's very prevalent, and we need to not make it prevalent. It needs to be diminished because it's too much, and our women have gone through enough, and men too. Enough is enough of this abuse.
Absolutely.
um I want to have you back again, and I'll feel free to have me come on yours, whatever you need. I'm so grateful of what you're doing. Keep doing it. Keep doing it, and keep being prayed up so that you can have the strength, because there are going to be times when you're going to get sick because you are sharing your story and your pain so much that you got to keep therapy. You got to keep being in therapy. You got to keep doing counseling and the group sessions, because as you give, you're going to have to receive too. So don't don't
Absolutely.
don't just be pouring it out there 24/7 and not getting something back, because you're going to need that
Absolutely.
with what you're doing. So thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you so much, Melissa. I want to send,
Thank
don't
you.
forget to send me your address, message me so I can send you my books and whatnot. And
Okay.
because I want to thank you for that. And I'll be talking to you all soon. And thank you. And don't forget,
Okay.
no matter what we go through, young lady, as pretty as you are still a rose in spite of everything
Thank
you've
you.
gone through. In
Thank you.
spite of everything. Don't you ever forget that when you wake up in the morning and all that stuff is in your head, I'm still a rose in spite of all
Okay.
of this. All right.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next
Yes.
time. Thank you so
Okay.
much. All right.
Thank you.
Good
Bye
night.
bye. Good night.